And like, I don't listen. So I cannot say that like it definitely is a joke. How, or it's not, that they're serious, that they're white nationalists. I'm not saying that. However, I've always said that right wingers don't get irony, but in fact, I think that's wrong. I think that they are really into ironic racism to the point, and some of them get funneled into no real racism, like Gavin McInnes, and some of them are just like, no, I want to say these slurs because you're not supposed to say them, and my brain is that of a 13-year-old boy, and I think it's funny, and I'm like an online commenter perpetually. So, and I think
the other day I made a video about the Majority Report trying to left-splain to us what comedy is and how right-wingers don't understand comedy. So I stumbled upon this Francesca Fiorentini video called How the Right Recruits with Comedy, where she has someone explain how the right recruits with comedy. Francesca Fiorentini, if you don't know, is allegedly a comedian. I haven't seen this video yet, but I just know anytime the left wants to try to explain comedy and how the right wants to recruit with comedy, I just know it's going to be gold. So let's all watch together.
At Colorado State University. He co-wrote the book, That's Not Funny, How the Right Makes Comedy Work for Them, which is out now. Everybody, please welcome Nick Marks.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, thank you so much for being here. I wanted to ask you, I'm not envious of the research that you had to do to write about right-wing comedy, but how many episodes of Greg Gutfeld did you have to watch?
Yeah.
Were you actively rewriting the jokes as you watched it?
Well, first, calling them jokes is being very generous. Had to slog through quite a few episodes of Greg Gutfeld, of the Joe Rogan Experience, of the Tim Allen sitcom Last Man Standing. We outline a whole universe of right-wing comedy ranging from like super libertarian, bro heavy humor that you might hear on something like Rogan to stuff that dads like, right? The good old-fashioned sitcom you turn on after checking in on your rental property and golfing 9 holes with your fellow Garys. It was not enjoyable, but our point...
We are really listening to an expert of comedy here, someone who has studied comedy. With great jokes like that, I am ready to listen to this guy left-splain and educate me.
Is to get our fellow liberals and leftists to get past that initial taste-based reaction of, that's not funny, that's not comedy, that's an oxymoron, right? Something I hear a lot when I describe the book to people. And look at what it's doing politically. Look at how it's bonding together groups of especially like-minded young men who go on to become right-wing activists, who go on to show up at Turning Points USA and laugh at Ted Cruz's jokes that his pronouns are kiss my ass or whatever line he's trotting out.
Were you able to actually...
We need to be even better comedians now. We need to be even better and go on their shows and crush them. Right? That's what you're saying,
to
right?
debates.
That's what you're saying? We need to write better jokes?
There is something to that. I mean, I will maintain that, the liberals in the media universe, ranging from the mainstream Colberts to the furthest left that you can go, are much funnier and are purely more skilled comedians. But I think, especially in the Trump years, a certain kind of like self-censoriousness crept into liberal comedy, where it was like, we don't want to take any chances. We don't want to offend too much because it's so bleak out there. So we want comedy to make us feel good. We want to watch stuff that's uplifting, that's morally fulfilling, and that's a very understandable impulse. But as we've kind of vacated that...
Ooh, be careful, man. Be careful. He's walking a fine line here. He is telling him a harsh truth, and look at Francesca's face. She's already like, and then this lady right here, she's already like, no. Which, by the way, lady, what's going on here? Would you just crawl out of bed?
That's where the sort of edgelord trolling, fascist adjacent right-wing people creep in and claim some of that kind of, boundary pushing comedy that we used to hold.
I have a lot of thoughts on that. I mean, I think that first, I want to put that aside for a second and say that what I got what I'm getting that your point of the book is that, we've on this show like made fun of Greg Gutfeld and, Rogan, and you're basically saying like, it's not enough to just say they're bad at comedy because they're shit comics. It's fine. But like they still have massive audiences.
Right.
I know Gutfeld, is getting better ratings, and you've said, charted that than even Colbert has gotten. Mm-hmm. But have you tracked a pipeline, and did you speak to people who straight up did go to the Turning Points conference or have been funneled from maybe some of the fringes or, I don't know, a podcast into actual like right-wing activism, or is that your assumption?
So the answer to that question is yes, but in a very kind of elemental form. We're making these connections by watching this stuff and putting the pieces together based on who guests on whoever shows, the advertisers they have in common, the ratings information that's published publicly. So for instance, Greg Gutfeld had a show on Fox News called Red Eye. That's the precursor to his current show. Mm-hmm. A longtime guest on that show was Proud Boys founder Gavin McInnes, who's another figure we write about in the book, who fancies himself to be funny and ironic and joking in his sort of hateful acts. Rogan has had just about anybody you can point to in the book on or has communicated with on Twitter. So it's not just that, your dad is watching Gutfeld, young bros are watching Rogan, and these two silos don't really talk to one another. It's very easy to go from one of these kind of big tent shows like Gutfeld and find out, oh, Gavin McInnes is associated with this. I'll check out what he's about. Right. Or the Legion of Skanks are guests on Rogan's podcast. I'll check out their podcast. So that universe is very good about moving you from one right-wing comedy style to another and keeping you in that tent ideologically.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, this guy actually isn't wrong. That is actually a good analysis there. That does happen. I did discover a lot of right-wingers from them going on each other's shows and then being like, oh, I wonder what this guy's about. Oh, he was pretty funny. Let me see what he's about. And so he's actually spot on. But do you think these two ladies of comedy, these experts at comedy here, are going to listen to that and be like, okay, I'll think about that. I'll process that. Or do you think they're going to have counterpoints of their own? Do you think they're going to continue to deny reality? What are your predictions in the comment section below?
You mentioned Legion of Skanks, and I hesitate to even say their names because apparently when you say it 3 times, you get, bum rushed by trolls.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you've also been on the receiving end of that. But, they say their tagline is, we say fucked up shit to make people laugh, relax their jokes. And actually my husband did stumble on one of their live shows, and they were singing the like white nationalist song from American History X as a joke, ostensibly, correct? Yeah. And like I don't listen, so I cannot say that like it definitely is a joke, or it's not, that they're serious, that they're white nationalists. I'm not saying that. However, I've always said that right wingers don't get irony, but in fact, I think that's wrong. I think that they are really into ironic racism to the point, and some of them get funneled into no real racism, like Gavin McInnes, and some of them are just like, no, I want to say these slurs because you're not supposed to say them, and my brain is that of a 13-year-old boy, and I think it's funny, and I'm like an online commenter perpetually. So, and I think
I want to remind you, Francesca is a self-proclaimed comedian. There's like footage of her stand-up. I saw one clip where she brings up her husband's phallus size, commenting on the big size of it. Now tell me, she's saying, well, people say racist things because it's funny because you're not supposed to say it because they have a mind of a 13-year-old. Well, commenting on a man's member and the size of that member, what maturity level do you have to be to get that joke? How sophisticated is that joke, Francesca?
Very tall. It's not all it's cracked up to be. Like, yeah, I understand there are perks to tall men. Yeah, he's got a big but bad knees. so he can only use it in 2 positions, all right? Like, this is the equivalent of owning a Ferrari and only being able to drive it with a parking brake on. You know what I'm saying? Just like,
But once again, we should appreciate that we could listen to the wisdom of this comedy expert, Francesca Fiorentini, because without her, we would have no one to guide us in this area.
And it's not even the left, but it's because general decency has told us, hey, don't say racial slurs. You know, like this is quite literally reactionary comedy that is responding to, call it a PC culture, call it just being respectful. That I think you're right, that some comics have let go because they want to sort of please everyone and like have, you know, sort of comedy that isn't edgy or is just sort of like, you know, doesn't, I'm not saying that's why, like, you know, that's why nobody says the N-word, but I agree that like there is a level of getting worried that you're not saying the right thing. And if the 2 options, I've always said this, is like the difference between being perfect and saying whatever you want, most people will take the say whatever you want avenue. Now, the reality is, and this is not even a question, but the reality is, as a comic, and Jessica, you know this, is that there's crazy funny people who fall into neither of those camps. Neither fucking, I'm saying this just to say it because I'm a, you know, edgelord comic, nor like I'm just like a perfect, like, you know, like vestige and emblem of, you know, like whatever social justice commentary comedy like that. The lines are much less neat than that, and a lot of comics that no one's ever heard about are really wonderful in that middle space. Anyway, I'll shut up.
I have some thoughts to how like Trump getting elected kind of changed a lot of feelings on comedy, or which is one is like it has to be funny, and if it is too just like fucked and shitty, sorry I'm cussing so much on this podcast, but it's just like, you know, in comedy we want to take something and we want to flip it and make it interesting and funny and weird, but it's just like the whole Trump thing, it's so trashy and all of it is so like, you know, you just want to be like, Jerry. It's like, I'm like, I feel above it. Like, I just don't think it's funny or interesting to like be fighting this. And now I'm telling jokes on the left. It's like, I want my comedy to be like, we're humans. Isn't this the human experience? And it's like, you can tell from listening to my comedy. Yes, I'd like an abortion now.
Wait a minute. So this woman is a comedian too? Oh, Lord. It's
not, I don't know. I don't want it to be like this. And then the comics on tell from listening to my comedy. Yes, I'd like an abortion now, but it's not, I don't know. I don't want it to be like this. And then the comics on the left and the comics on the right, and who's winning. And it's kind of like what I've been saying this whole podcast about all the politics is it just all feels like a facade to me at this point of like, we're on this team and we're going to win, and we're on this team and we're going to win. But it's like, we're just propping up like.
Right.
Yeah. It's part of the bigger issue I think you're pointing to, Jessica, is the because our politics are so enfeebled and they don't actually do anything for us, folks, especially younger folks, turn hard into culture and trying to get that right and fight all our battles on that front and make sure that the comedy that I like is the good and pure stuff that supports progressive causes, and the comedy that I hate is Joe Rogan or whoever else. And in the meantime, there's no money to be made in the center. And I don't mean that ideologically, but comedy pushes us to extremes now, necessarily economically, right? Like you have to either sort of self-identify as one thing or another, or else you're not going to get the rush of fans that people at the extremes do, right?
I would be in that category, the no money category, by the way.
No, I think, but I mean, this is the other, you know, you are obviously in media studies, and you talk about the siloing of media. And look, the Bitchuation Room is a part of that siloing. You know, we're in the, you know, that mainstream space of left comedy, obscure streamer. But in that way, like, I forgot what my point was. That really, and I think someone in the chat is talking about this. These are all products of also the algorithm, which we know absolutely lifts up not shows like this, but shows where people are kind of like saying the craziest thing they can say just to say it. I mean, that's straight up how right-wing grifters become famous. Tommy Laren's motto is, "You don't have to agree with me, but with my right to say it." Like that kind of like brainless type of mush, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, gee, it's almost like if we have a First Amendment or something, freedom of speech. And Francesca said that with a disgusted look on her face, like, what kind of brain mush is that? You don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but agree with my right to say it? What? Why? Ugh. First Amendment? Blah.
Previous media era, as recent as 20, 30 years ago, there were bigger audiences watching the same thing. Now that we've accelerated most of our media content into hyper-fragmented niches so that only small clusters of people like us are watching the same thing that the algorithm produces and delivers to us, we're much less likely to be exposed to ideas, to culture outside of that pre-programmed sort of cultural niche. So what you get is this kind of feedback loop, right? You get the culture, the politics, the news that already affirms what you think and what you find to be good. So I think many liberals kind of took for granted that comedy was liberal because Jon Stewart is the person on The Daily Show and Tina Fey is on SNL making fun of Sarah Palin. But all the while, there's this media ecosystem being built up on the right, mostly unseen to to those of us on the left, that yes is populated by Tommy Laren and Greg Gutfeld and Joe Rogan, and has this pseudo-intellectual sheen from folks like Jordan Peterson and others. So comedy is the sort of recruitment mechanism that is bringing people who are coming of age in their media consumption into that right-wing tent where most of us had exposure to it in a previous era.
Right.
So sad to see something I love be used for such evil.
It's so sad to see something that I love be used for such evil. You love comedy so much, but yet you don't understand it. Listen, I'm going to keep it really simple for you. I'm a simple guy. Just be funny. That's it. That's all you got to do. Just be funny. You can make whatever jokes you want as long as it's funny. That's the job of a comedian. You can make a racist joke, and as long as majority of people find it funny, then that's all that matters. What I get from Francesca and that other lady is that they're fine with risky jokes. Like Francesca, she can make jokes about her husband's penis size and about the positions that they could do with each other in bed because of his bad knees. Oh, she can make that joke. Some people might be offended by that joke. Maybe her husband might be offended by that joke. But to her, she's a comedian. She should be allowed to say that. And I agree, she should be allowed to make those jokes. I don't think she should be canceled over it as long as it's funny. I don't think her comedy was funny, but she should be canceled over it? No. That other woman brought up jokes about smishmortians. So it's clear, it's like they're fine with risque jokes as long as it agrees with their political view. Because with these leftist freaks, all that matters is their political view. They are so in deep with the cult that they only care about do these jokes match with my point of view, with my political point of view? Oh, it does? Then it's funny and I like it. Yeah, sure. Very good show, yes. But if it's something that falls out of line with their point of view, like, racist jokes, well, unless it's about white people. I mean, I bet if you made jokes about white people, I'm sure they would be fine with it. But if you made racist jokes about any other race, well, no, we can't have that. We can't have that. If we make jokes about women, or maybe even jokes about women not being funny, oh, well, we can't have that. We can't have that. This was a 13-minute video from Francesca. 13 minutes of three unfunny people trying to explain comedy. And what's funny is that the guy who wrote the book, who was talking to them, he's not even a comedian, but he seemed to have a better grasp of what's going on here and how the right recruits with comedy than the supposed comedians. And whenever he tried to explain these harsh truths to them, they weren't having it. Because again, They don't want to hear it. They don't want to be better. They don't want to live in reality. They want to live in their wacky left-wing bubble, which ironically is pretty funny. Seeing these three people talk about right-wing comedy and how the right-wing recruit with comedy, I think that is actually pretty funny in itself. But what do you guys think about this? And what did you think about this clip? Pretty ridiculous, right? Sound off in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video. You'll be helping me out a lot, and smash that like button. And if you want to see more wisdom and great debates featuring the intelligent, funny Francesca Fiorentini, I got a playlist for you on the screen, along with more videos on my channel that I think you'll enjoy.